Hello everyone, it's me, and today let's watch Shrek. Who are you, donkey? Who are you?
And now I shall awaken her with true love's kiss.
Stop right there.
Stop.
Unhand me, you knave!
Unwanted kissing of sleeping women is a federal offense.
But she's my one true love. She'll only be awoken by true love's kiss.
Tell it to the judge, you creep.
Oh my God.
Watch The Crown.
Okay.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory.
Hello Internet. Welcome to Film Theory. Hello. Hey.
The show that turns your favorite bedtime stories into nightmare fuel. Today we're diving back into the Shrek franchise because, well, honestly I wanted to do something on an animated movie but didn't really feel like writing another prediction theory for Frozen 2. And Shrek is, well, he's always relevant. And I've been thinking about the
I love Shrek memes.
franchise a lot, thanks in large part to the excellent analysis videos on the channel Shea Frillis Productions, which, if you've never heard of, does awesome videos analyzing all sorts of classic animated movies, but more on him and his work later. So what else is there to say about Shrek nearly 20 years after it was first released? Well,
Literally 2 decades.
how about we finally put a definitive solution behind the mysterious origins of its most iconic character? I mean, as most of you know, the Shrek
Donkey.
universe is chock full of fairy tale and nursery rhyme characters who, when the movie begins, are getting rounded up and turned in for a reward. All the big name fairy tale characters are there. 7 dwarves, the 3 bears, Tinkerbell, Pinocchio, a talking donkey, 3 blind mice, but in the words of Sesame Street,
But one of these things just doesn't belong here.
a
But one of these things just doesn't belong here. Who is it?
talking donkey? Have you ever really stopped to think about that? I mean, all these other fairy tale characters are super famous and easily recognizable. Even
Yeah.
the generic characters like witches and ogres and princesses trapped in towers are tropes from countless other fairy tales. But a talking donkey? Where is he from? That, my loyal theorists, is the question that we explore today. What is the origin of Shrek's donkey? Because I think I have an answer. One that is provable beyond a reasonable doubt. And let's just say that the conclusion to this one is not giving us a happy ever after.
Oh,
If you
what?
search through fairy tale lore, there's really only one famous talking donkey to note. The titular character in the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, the donkey. It's not
Donkey.
one that most people know, but basically it goes a little something like this. A rich king and queen are upset that they can't have a son, but then one day God blesses the couple and she suddenly gives birth to a donkey. She wants to kill it because, you know, donkey baby. But the king refuses, and so the couple raise it as their son. So we have ourselves a donkey who learns to speak and have manners. He even teaches himself how to play music. And this is starting to sound a lot like our donkey from Shrek, right? He's
Yeah, think about it. The coincidences are there. A bit sus, isn't it? Among us. I'm sorry.
speaks English, he sings all the time, he can have decent enough table manners when he needs to, and is one of the few fairy tale characters who knows the way to Lord Farquaad's castle, suggesting a possible royal backstory.
Who knows where this Farquaad guy is?
Oh, I do. I know where he is.
Does anyone else?
That's not all. There's one really suspicious quote from the fairy tale that seems to lock this in as our donkey. Quote, "The young lordling once went out walking full of thought and came to a well. He looked into it and in the mirror clear water saw his donkey's form. He was so distressed about it that he went out into the wide world and only took with him one faithful companion. One faithful traveling companion." It's an especially weird detail for this fairy tale to include because that is all we ever hear about this other mysterious character. But using context clues, we can clearly identify this as someone who's a loner and is also comfortable traveling with a donkey. So that pretty much points to someone like Shrek.
Again, it's quite coincidental, right? Maybe it's Shrek, maybe it's not Shrek, but a bit sus.
Right? This is absolutely the origin story for our talking donkey, isn't it? It would be until you get to the big twist at the end of the story. You see, the donkey and his companion go to another kingdom and make friends with the king, who marries his daughter off to the donkey because, you know, the donkey is depressed. You know, times were different back then, okay? Anyway, just as the donkey and his bride are about to, you know, celebrate their marriage night, the donkey takes his skin off to reveal himself to be a real boy. The king doesn't believe it, so the next night he sneaks into his daughter's room and watches the proceedings. There's a lot of reasons you weren't told this one at story time at night.
Oh wait, you are telling me that the he watched them do that thingy that yeah. Okay, it escalated really quickly.
Or reasons why people don't choose to adapt Grimm's fairy tales accurately. Anyway, suffice it to say, the king is impressed by what he sees. All the old people in the story die, and the donkey gets himself a wife and 2 kingdoms. But you can start to see our problem as far as this theory is concerned, right? The donkey in the fairy tale isn't a real donkey. It's just a human disguised inside of a donkey's skin. But one glance at Donkey and Dragon's offspring in Shrek the Third is all the proof we need that Shrek's donkey is 100% donkey and 0% human. Those are dronkies and dongans, no doubt about it. So with Grimm's donkey out of the picture, we're back at square one, which honestly kinda sucks because that would have been the best title and thumbnail ever, which means a return to the drawing board. So we know Donkey is a fairy tale.
Back to the drawing board. You must understand that this donkey have with a dragon, and they come out multiple different donkey dragons like creatures. Children's
Tail character, otherwise he wouldn't be getting rounded up with all the others or worth any sort of reward. So is he one just made up for the purposes of these movies, or could there be another explanation for what's really going on here? Well, 2 years ago, in a now deleted Reddit post, a user named Yeremy V proposed a different possibility, that Donkey did indeed hail from a fairy tale. In fact, one that is far more popular than Grimm's The Donkey ever was. Could Donkey be one of the kidnapped boys from Pinocchio? Is it possible that Donkey started as a human child, one stolen off of the street and shipped off to Pleasure Island, where he, like so many others before him, would transform into a donkey and eventually be sold off into slavery? Now, admittedly, that's a pretty dark backstory for a main character in a PG-rated franchise about an ogre who farts a bunch,
But you must understand that it's under the premise that they are all Disney's, so maybe I'm not too sure.
Would help explain why, in a movie full of celebrity cameos from history's most iconic fairy tales, we would spend so much time with an otherwise out-of-place talking donkey. And the rationale here doesn't just boil down to throwing up our arms and saying, well, they're practically the only other fairy tale donkeys of note, so he must be one of them. The clues pointing towards a Shrek-Pinocchio crossover are...
Ogres are like onions. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it.
So let's start peeling them back. First, let's look at what few details we can actually learn about Donkey's backstory based on some of the things he says throughout the movie.
For example, Pinocchio actually does exist inside Shrek's stories. Yeah, Shrek's story.
He says this in Shrek the Third.
Already starting to feel nauseous from memories of wedges and swirlies.
As Puss in Boots points out moments later, donkeys don't wear clothes. So this would suggest that Donkey was a human at some point in his life, specifically when he was a child. How else would he have been given a wedgie? Donkeys don't wear clothes, but human children absolutely do. Or at least they're supposed to. No screaming naked babies around here. Later on in that same movie, Donkey and Puss swap bodies and we get ourselves this short conversation.
What they were made in Madrid by the finest.
Oh, you'll learn to control that.
This seems to suggest that Donkey learned to talk as a donkey later in life. I mean, after all, who can remember what it's like learning to talk as a baby? If Donkey was a school-aged boy who got himself turned into a donkey on Pleasure Island, however, he would remember how hard it was to talk normally following his transformation.
Oh, that's the reason why you say that he's gonna learn, get used to it, and okay. So he sort of developed the skills over time. I get the point. How
when it first happened, his normal patterns of speech started to get interrupted by uncontrollable donkey brays. And wouldn't you know it, that's not just me speculating here. It's exactly what we see happen in Pinocchio. When we watch Lampwick transform on Pleasure Island, we see two key things. One, that he is indeed able to continue speaking like a human despite being fully transformed into a donkey. And two, his normal speech starts to get interrupted with donkey noises.
Hey, you laugh like a donkey. Did that come out of me?
In fact, based on these scenes, we know one additional detail here. Boys who are transformed into donkeys but still able to talk fluently are sent back to Pleasure Island for a little bit longer until they fully lose that ability.
And what might your name be?
Alexander.
So you can talk.
Yes, sir. I want to go home to my mama.
Think of back!
He can still talk.
This scene also demonstrates another key feature of how the donkeys get treated on Pleasure Island. They're allowed to keep their clothes until they're ready to be sold off to the salt mines. Here, we see a child who's gone full donkey get stripped of his clothes by the coachman and sent to the crates, whereas Alexander, our boy from earlier, is allowed to stay dressed. Now, this is important because Donkey in Shrek clearly has memories of being both a donkey and wearing clothes.
Yeah, you better run, you little punk no goodness, cause today's a little Dunkin' Dumpy draws are over.
This donkey still allowed to wear clothes detail not only opens up the possibility of him getting called Donkey Dumpy Drawers, we know that Pleasure Island is specifically full of bullies. The boys are all trapped there because they misbehave. So another half-turned child making fun of Donkey for being scared and soiling his donkey drawers? Totally within the realm of possibility here.
It's quite dark for a family-friendly children's fairy tale. It's quite dark.
And lastly, it probably goes without saying, but it's definitely worth pointing out, it's clearly established that both Pinocchio and Shrek share the same universe. Heck, the first time we see Donkey, he's standing behind Pinocchio in line. Could this be DreamWorks' way of slyly suggesting that the two characters are linked? Maybe, maybe not. But if nothing else, it verifies that Shrek pulls from the Pinocchio lore. So
Maybe, probably.
it would make perfect sense for a Pleasure Island donkey to be walking around somewhere in this world. So
Somewhere.
the Pleasure Island theory gives us a source for donkeys who wear clothes, used to be human, and have learned to talk as donkeys. All of which line up with the few small details that donkeys let slip about his own past throughout these movies. But I just wish that there was something more, like one final clinching piece of evidence. Something that's a little less lore-based and a little bit more, I don't know, design-based, scientific. Brain blast! I got it! Look at their species. Donkey appears to be the exact same breed of donkey as the boys turned donkey in Pinocchio. Look at this! In Pinocchio, it seems like the Pleasure Island boys turn into one of two types of donkeys. Either all brown or all gray. No color at the tips of the ears, a lighter color along their stomach, and a little tuft of either black or brown hair on their head and down into their neck.
Wait. So you're trying to tell me that this part of the video is going to be biology of an animal? Of donkey species? Okay, the more you know, I guess. Let the lessons begin.
And now look at Donkey in Shrek. Same design. Gray, tall ears with no color at the tips, a lighter color of gray along his stomach, and a little tuft of black hair on his head and neck. This seems really important to point out because there are over 140 different donkey breeds. And these breeds all have very different hair lengths, very different hair colors, and very distinct markings. So the fact that Donkey is matching up to the exact type that we see coming out of Pleasure Island feels like the smoking gun that we were missing before. So at this point, I have little choice but to stamp this theory as Matt Pat certified fresh. Really, considering all this evidence, how could Donkey not be a now grown boy from Pleasure Island?
True. The coincidences are just very similar, isn't it?
Theory has an answer for pretty much everything we know about the character. We've established 1, that it make him one of the very few famous fairy tale donkeys. 2, that he was once human. 3, wore clothes as a donkey. 4, learned to control his brain but can still talk in English. 5, was bullied in donkey form. 6, comes from a lore that also exists in Shrek. And 7, just so happens to be the exact species of donkey coming out of Pleasure Island. There is simply no other fairy tale or nursery rhyme out there that covers the spread the way the Pleasure Island theory does. Not even close. But if this is true, which it certainly seems to be, it opens up one very dark reality about Donkey, his personality, and what he wants to keep hidden about his past. Shortly after that Shrek the Third clip I played earlier, we get ourselves these lines where it seems like Donkey admits to his tragic origin story.
When you are clearly not aware of the underpants.
Let's just say some things are better left unsaid and leave it at that.
What first appears to be a joke about donkeys wearing underwear, according to this theory, actually becomes Donkey not wanting to address the horrific way he became a donkey in the first place. Some things are better left unsaid. He doesn't want to talk about his trauma, which is totally fine until you consider the timeline of events. Pinocchio's story begins with him as a lifeless toy. Let's call this stage 1. He then becomes a living toy, which we'll call Stage 2. Stage 3 is when he becomes a partial donkey living toy for a while, before finally entering Stage 4 at the end of the movie when he's turned into a fully grown human boy. Now, throughout the Shrek movies, Pinocchio appears exclusively in his Stage 2 living toy form. Meaning, the events depicted in Shrek occur after Pinocchio comes to life, but before he's sent off to Pleasure Island and becomes a weird partial donkey creature. So in the Shrek films, Pinocchio has no idea that Pleasure Island even exists. But Donkey does. He's already been there. In fact, we know that he managed to escape, like we see in that Alexander clip.
And what might your name be?
Alexander.
So you can talk. Take him back. He can still talk.
We know Donkey has turned, but hasn't gone full donkey yet, like all the other kids that are being shipped off to the salt mines, meaning that he managed to escape before that happened. The long and short of what I'm saying here is that Donkey knows full well that the evil Pleasure Island scheme of kidnapping boys and selling them as donkeys into the salt mines is in full swing, even as the events of Shrek are taking place. The criminals running the Pleasure Island scheme are very careful not to ship off any boys turned donkeys off the island until they can no longer talk, because donkeys who can talk could feasibly tell people on the mainland about their criminal enterprise and shut the whole thing down.
And shut the whole thing down.
Here we have ourselves Donkey, the lone fairy tale creature who could end all the suffering of so many boys. But does Donkey step up to the challenge of being a hero? Does he tell anyone about the ongoing horrors of Pleasure Island? Does he do anything to stop these atrocities?
Let's just say some things are better left unsaid and leave it at that.
He does not. Instead, he just follows Shrek around for a few movies, living it up, banging dragons.
In the morning, I'm making waffles.
He was turned into a donkey because presumably he was a bad kid. It seems like he hasn't improved with age. Orphaned boys are getting kidnapped and sold off by the boatload, and Donkey is letting it happen. Does this make Donkey a complete ass? I don't know, but in the end, there's definitely blood on Donkey's hands. Or, I suppose, hooves. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And if you want to see more Shrek, I suggest you watch our other video on Shrek's deadly farts. There is an actual scientific explanation for why his farts are so dangerous. We go into that on the video to the left. Or you know what, do me a favor and check out that channel I mentioned earlier, Shay Frillis Productions. His analyses of classic animated movies coming from Disney and Pixar. He's incredibly insightful in his observations and is just funny to boot.
It's not the best, but it's my favorite, which is a pretty impressive feat considering how generic the story is.
I first discovered him through his videos on Shrek, and I've been watching him ever since.
But I don't think anyone ever takes a look at it and says, oh yeah, now that's one of the greatest sequels in cinematic history. Why am I Luigi?
He's doing great work out there. He's over 500,000 subscribers. Go out, show him some love, give him some of that valuable watch time that YouTube cherishes so much, and tell him Matt Pat sent you. And Shay Frillis, if at some point you want to do something together, let me know. I would love to talk to you about that. You're doing great work out there, man. Hopefully this gets you a bit more attention. So anyway, that's it for today. I need to start working on some scary theories for October. I'll see you then.
See you then. Well, thank you so much for watching this video together with me. Well, that was a very unique and special episode to watch, isn't it? If you do like this video, please remember to like, share, subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have anything to share with us. Don't forget to follow my channel and see appreciate all of your support and encouragement for our work. It's very motivating, uplifting, and encouraging for me to continue. Thank you so much for being so inspirational, and thank you so much for encouragement as well. But hey, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. And I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye bye! Once again, I'm sincerely thankful, grateful, and appreciative for all your support and watching my videos. Thank you. And subscribe as well! Alright, thank you, bye bye. Subscribe.